Well, welcome back for the last session. So we're going to do the water in the foreground, and you need some cling film for this, so you need to get that at hand. And I do think this will be the last session, so let's just see how we go. What we need to do is to wet this bottom area with water. So I'm going to do it in two halves. I'm going to start with this right hand section first of all, so make sure you put plenty of water on. And then I'm going to use a bit of cerulean blue and then some darker blue and a bit of black and whatever colours you feel like, really. Anything that's in your palette. Don't forget to leave plenty of white. I do get a bit carried away with that because it does squash it about. Having said that, this bottom right hand corner might be a little bit more in shadow because of the large rock there. So I think it could be slightly darker than what the left would be. Right, cling film or plastic wrap in America. Now the pattern that you see is the pattern that you'll get, so spend time scrunching it up and getting something that looks water-like. And you get white lines and dark lines, which is usually quite nice. And then just wet this left-hand area in exactly the same way. Just put my picture here so I can, not that I'm really looking at it much now. I'm going to pop a bit of yellow in just to see if that works, with like the sun hitting the top of the water in that area. Put some black in as well as the blue. And then with another piece of cling film, pop that over the top and do the same. Not sure about that yellow. No, I want to get rid of that. And that. But I don't like that green bit at all because the two colours, the yellow and the blue, have made this weird green. And I don't like it. So that's going to go. Off it comes. So you've got time to do it. I think I just need to crinkle it a bit more. In fact, here I'm going to do more horizontal lines. Right, stop fiddling, Ruth. I can't stop fiddling. Okay, I'm nearly there. It's got to be right. I'll just put a tiny bit more in, maybe. I promise I'm nearly there. Yes. I think that's it. Okay. Now, I don't like this. If it's a big splash like that, that bit of rock looks really weird. So that rock's got to go as well. Goodbye. That makes some more sense already. So this is where you can lift off bits actually and think, oh, you know, I need to lift a bit here and a bit there, and I'm going to take a little bit off some of the rocks on the top edge of the rocks just to soften them a wee bit so they don't look too dominant. So get that little bristle brush if you can get one. I didn't put that on the materials list, I know, but even if you've got like a decorating brush or anything, just something that's got stiff bristles. And your ordinary brush will probably work as well, but maybe not as well. Not to the same degree. So I've just speeded this up so I don't bore you to death. Right, now I've got my sheet back, my planning sheet, because I would normally put a few birds in. Now I'm not going to put a big detail bird in like I normally do. I'm just going to put just a few little tiny ones in the sky. So you need to go back to your planning sheet and you need to practice it. Now you can draw them first if you want. I'm just going to go in. You can even draw them on your main sheet as well and then just paint over them. So they're like little V's, and the middle bit is just slightly thicker where the body would be. And I'm just doing slightly different shapes. One's almost straight. I'm just practicing a few. You can look up some on the internet if you want. I've done enough to know just how to do it without that by now, but yeah, that's what I used to do. I used to just look up the shapes, and then when you're happy, draw them in first if you want, and then just paint in a few birds. Now, it's said that an odd number is usually better, so I'll stick with 3. I'd do 3 or 5. But you know, rules are there to be broken, aren't they? But we don't want big albatrosses. Really delicate in the pale grey to start with. You can always touch a little bit of black in there. Gives the picture a little bit of scale, a bit of interest. As I say, normally I would put one bigger bird crossing one of the black rocks. And I'm going to take off the cling film. Give it a quick dry. And carry on taking bits of paint off. Because you'll get some weird hard lines happening, and some of the patterns that the cling film makes you might not like. So you can just get them off. Remember, the paint is all non-staining. And I'm not looking at the picture anymore. I'm doing my own thing. Okay, I'm just going to see what it looks like with the mount on. Yep, it's beginning to look okay. So you can move it over. I don't quite know where I'm going to put it yet. Think about that. Now then, here's an optional extra, and it's not something I put on the materials list, and that's to use a colour called Lunar Blue by Daniel Smith, and it's not cheap. I can't say it is. But I'm going to use that with a palette knife, and you'll probably think, what are you doing? And a spray bottle. You need to bear with me here. It's not for the faint-hearted. And you probably think, oh, you've ruined it. But I'm just going to do it. And I've done this enough times to know that by the end, I'm usually glad, because it creates quite a nice pattern. Whether or not this will be really evident on this video, I don't know. But let's give it a whirl. So you start from the edge. And when you first put it on, it's like a black And I can see you thinking now, and you're taking a sharp intake of breath, thinking, what is she doing? And then spray it with a fine spray. But what this lunar blue does, I do have a video of this on my Arty Tips, it separates into like a really gorgeous turquoise and a darker blue. You can just see it beginning to run out of, can you see as I'm just dribbling this along? I will get some of this off. But it's changed colour already, and as it dries it changes even more. It's a really rich blue. I'm going to put a little bit more in. I would definitely go back to your sheet and practice this, but I've just gone off piste a little bit, and you don't have to do it, obviously. If you think, no, I like it as it is, then don't do it. I'm going to do the same over here. I can hear you going, no! Oh, life's for taking risks. Same again. Using a couple of sprays, let's say one's finer than another. Sort of spreading it about a little bit while it's still wet. Give it a run. And then I'll put a little bit more cling film, particularly on the areas that, I don't know, look a little bit uninteresting. I quite like some of the bits, but there are other bits that I think, no, we need a bit more detail in there. So a little bit there. Might pop a bit of colour in here. Put a little bit in there. Same here. And a little bit up there. Okay. What now? Now this is dried. I'm just going to take this off. Yeah, I quite like it actually. Let's just see what it looks like with the mount. It just adds, it really brings that foreground into the foreground. Right, another thing that is quite scary, and you don't have to do, is with the white ink, I'm now going to add a bit of detail straight from the pipette. I sort of scribble, and you can lift it off while it's still wet, but remember this acrylic is permanent. If you put it on with the brush, it's never the same. I'm just going to speed this up a bit. I'm not putting it everywhere, I'm only putting it in the light areas. Take little bits off if you don't like it. Right, pastel time. So some of this has got a little bit grey looking, so just, it might not even be really obvious on the video, but it really does make a difference if you've got a good white pastel. You can just emphasize the areas that you want to be really white. Try not to go mad, she says. Oh, I'm terrible at knowing when to stop with this. Because you've got to remember it's a watercolour that's been embellished by pastel, not a pastel painting. So don't let it take over. But it just brightens up, you know, that splash in areas. You can see that there. So put it wherever you want. It's nice to sort of put bits, you know, on the rocks, as though the water is just creating like a mist over the top of some of the rocks. It softens the edges. And I'm actually sort of, you probably can't see it, but I'm actually rubbing it in with my ring finger. You see how it gives that lovely misty feel. So that's how the blue dries. It's rather nice actually, if you're brave enough. I wouldn't use any other colour. I would only use the lunar blue because of this beautiful separation. It creates these sort of pockets of dark colour, which you could never get with a brush. You've just got to be bold. And it's going to be broken up with bits of pastel, but also with a lot of splashing, which is what we're going to do now. And I'm going to use gouache for this, because it is a bit more forgiving. You can get it off if you didn't like it. Put a bit in one of your clean wells and add a bit of water. If it's too thick, if it doesn't work, it means it's too thick. Add a bit more water. But by the same token, you don't want it to be so weak that it disappears when it dries. So I'm just using the number 6 brush now. Give it a good mix. And then, I think I'll stand up. And then we'll tap it with something else, a pencil or something. What have I got? Right, yeah, pencil. A loaded brush. I'm going to roll my sleeves up. I know what this does, it gets everywhere. And then just start flicking. I'm using this number 6 brush for like the middle ground, because it's quite a nice sized dot. The bigger the brush, the bigger the dot, you see. So we'll leave the big brush for at the bottom, mainly. And then I'll use a toothbrush for like a spray. That's for more like a fine misty spray. Wash it, give it a wipe so it's damp. Now, can you see the movement? You put your thumb on the top and you flick back, and eventually you're going to turn it towards the picture, but you're doing exactly the same thing. I've seen people use it in the most bizarre ways. Right, okay, so there's white paint on there now, and then just very gently flickety flick. And if you keep it in one place and keep doing it, it builds the area up and becomes denser. Okay, so I'll speed this up now. Put it wherever you want. Once again, don't go bananas. And I'm using the big brush at the bottom. Actually, it's better to use my hand now. Bigger dots, and I'm putting over that blue, which breaks it up quite nicely. And just give myself a bit of a wipe. It is everywhere. I can feel it on my glasses too. That should be okay. Give it a dry. So I've given it a quick dry and I just want to try the mount. Yeah, that looks okay. It always looks nice with the white mount round, but I don't know whether I want more of that left rock or whether I want more of the water at the bottom, but then that makes the rock, the main rock, quite near the top edge. Too near, actually. But I do like that bottom C. So I should have done that palette knife work a little bit higher up. Oh well. Hey ho. So that's what it's looking like so far. Now this is the optional extra as well of putting that ray of sunlight in, just down here. I'm going to get a longer piece of paper, and with this quite hard rubber, you've got to really rub quite hard, because what you're doing is you're rubbing the top layer of paint off. Yeah, I can see a hint actually, particularly on the yellow. Yeah, you can definitely see a little bit there, but it's not working across the rocks. So you can use a bit of pastel and then put it on the paper and then just move it over. I hope that makes sense. So there you are. It's just a little ray of sunlight. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you've enjoyed this and got a lot from it. I'm just going to quickly wipe my table and then I can pop it in the middle. It's the best bit, this. Clear everything up and then put the picture in the middle. Oh, you see, without all the rubbish around it. So it's worked quite well. There's just been a few little things that I've had to change. So yeah, so I hope you've got a lot from it. I hope you've had a go. I would love to see some of the results, and if you would like to send them to me, and if you give me permission, if you'd like to send them through my contact page on my website, which will be in the comments. So it's been lovely working with you. I hope you didn't get stressed, and happy painting, everybody.